The transatlantic slave trade stands as a dark chapter in human history, a period of immense suffering and unimaginable cruelty. But the horrors of this forced migration extended far beyond the shackles and the whips. Unseen, yet equally as devastating, were the diseases that Europeans unwittingly carried with them. Microscopic invaders that would decimate populations and leave a lasting scar on the African continent. To learn more about Africa's rich history and its enduring legacy, subscribe to @Africa Root. Imagine, if you will, a world where the very air you breathe carries an invisible threat. Smallpox, a disease so contagious it could sweep through a village in a matter of days, leaving behind only the echo of mourning. Brought to Africa's shores by Europeans, it found a fertile breeding ground in populations with no immunity. Those infected faced a grim lottery, a torturous death, or, if they were lucky enough to survive, a life often scarred and disfigured by the disease's cruel touch. African elder, we had never seen such suffering before. The disease, it came like a shadow, taking our loved ones and leaving us to mourn in silence. We were helpless against it. For centuries, measles has been a thief in the night, stealing away the lives of the young and the vulnerable. Highly contagious, it spread like wildfire through the crowded slave ships and trading posts, leaving a trail of fever and despair in its wake. African mother, imagine the anguish of parents powerless to protect their children from this invisible enemy. Our cries were swallowed by the vastness of the ocean, our grief echoing the immensity of our loss.
Like a relentless tide, influenza swept across the African continent, brought by the constant comings and goings of European traders. Each wave brought new strains of the virus, each more debilitating than the last. Imagine the fear that gripped communities as they witnessed their loved ones succumb to fever, their bodies racked with chills and aches, their strength ebbing away with each passing hour.
While smallpox and measles raged with terrifying speed, tuberculosis was a more insidious foe. It lurked in the shadows spread through the air, a silent stalker that preyed on the weak and the vulnerable. The cramped, unsanitary conditions of the slave trade provided the perfect breeding ground, allowing this deadly bacterium to flourish and spread. Imagine the slow, agonizing decline of those afflicted, their coughs a constant reminder of the disease's grip, their bodies wasting away as hope slowly dwindled.
The diseases brought to Africa during the transatlantic slave trade were more than just biological invaders. They were instruments of suffering, their impact echoing through generations. Smallpox, measles, influenza, tuberculosis, these were just a few of the unseen enemies that decimated populations, leaving behind a legacy of loss and despair. But even in the face of such adversity, the human spirit endured. Communities found ways to adapt, to care for their sick, and to honor the memory of those they had lost.
These diseases, along with others such as whooping cough and diphtheria, severely impacted African populations, contributing to social and demographic disruptions. The introduction of these diseases was exacerbated by the harsh conditions of the slave trade, including overcrowded ships, poor nutrition, and unsanitary environments, which facilitated the spread and impact of these illnesses.